different stars will come up depending on the time of year. So this is why it will look like midnight tonight. But go forward 6 months and it'll be completely different. No, I'm not trying to get you to come back in 6 months and do a show again, but if you do, that's okay. Now, people have looked at the stars for thousands of years, and over time they saw shapes. Now, I do like to ask questions during these shows, but as you may be able to tell, it's quite dark in here. Please don't put your hands up. I cannot see you. So, if I do ask a question, feel free to say some answers. For example, what do we call the shapes that we see in the stars?
Constellations.
Constellations, exactly. And there's quite a few up tonight. Some of these already look like things. So we've got this one, looks a bit like a house. This one looks a bit like a fish. But my personal favourite, line. That's just a line between two stars. But that is actually, apparently, a small dog. You've got to have a little bit of creativity. Unfortunately, it doesn't actually want to work. There. So, some of these come from Greek or Roman mythology, such as Perseus, Andromeda, and my favourite Disney film, Hercules. A lot are named after animals, so Cygnus means goose. You've got Leo, meaning lion. You've got Canis Minor, small dog. You've got Hydra, which is a type of snake. You've got Draco, which is a type of snake. And Serpens, which is another snake. But you've also got ones such as, there's one I saw, Corvus, meaning crow or raven. But one of the most famous is Ursa Major and Ursa Minor. Ursa comes from Latin meaning bear, so that's big bear and little bear. These two are connected because in Ursa Major you've got this rectangle with a tail. That is Big Dipper, or the plough, also known in Welsh as Sosban Lawr. And that same rectangle with a tail is Little Dipper, or Sosban Lawr. That's why those two are connected. And Big Dipper is actually one of the easiest constellations to see in the sky. I'll show you how easy in a bit. But a few others you might have noticed: Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra. What are these examples of? Star signs or zodiac signs, exactly. All of which are on a line called the ecliptic. The ecliptic is the line that the sun follows every single day. It passes through every single star sign. Does anyone know how many star signs there are?
12.
12 official ones. But there is a secret 13th. 13, yeah. But 13 is seen as an unlucky number. Have you heard of Friday the 13th? The unlucky day. 13 has been unlucky for a while. Is anyone here born between the 1st and about the 10th of December? No? If you do know anybody born in that period, they would be an Ophiuchus. As Ophiuchus technically crosses the line just here, making him the unofficial 13th star sign. But most people still ignore it because it doesn't sound as cool as the rest of us. That's not supposed to fall off. But there's a few other things on the ecliptic. If I get rid of all of that. You see, the moon will follow the ecliptic. It's just not up right now. But there's also a dot there in July and another dot there in June. Those are not stars. Those are planets. It is the planets that we can see tonight, which is both Mars and Jupiter. Now, Venus will often be visible, so will Saturn. Mercury is quite small, so it's difficult to see it. Uranus and Neptune are very, very far away, so sometimes it's difficult to see them as well. So mostly, if you see a very bright star and go, that's not a star, that's a planet, it's usually going to be one of those four: Venus, Mars, Jupiter, or Saturn. Now, I get rid of all of those. So, I said earlier that Big Dipper was one of the easiest constellations to see in the sky. I'm going to bring up. Oh, some of these buttons are not happy today. So, bring up Ursa Major again. And remember that Big Dipper is just this bit, that tail and that rectangle. Then, if it fades, can you still see Big Dipper?
Yes.
Yeah. And if you look opposite the tail section to this line right here, we can use it to point to a star. This star is named Polaris, but it's got a more common name. Any guesses what that star might be? The North Star, exactly. That is the North Star. It will point you directly north if you're ever lost. But warning, if you follow it from here, you will end up in North Wales. Do that at your own risk. I got nothing against them. Now, we're going to be leaving Earth now. This can cause motion sickness. If you do have any issues looking at the blue lights on the floor, can apparently help. But it'll look as if the sky is spinning as we move away. We'll see the lights of Cardiff disappear. We'll see the atmosphere appear as a line across the sky. And then we make it to space. Welcome to space. It's a bit chilly in space, actually. Hands up if you've ever gone playing in the snow before. Yeah? Was it cold? Yeah. Snow is about -5 to -10 degrees Celsius. Space is just a little bit colder at -273 degrees Celsius. Just a little bit colder. And without our atmosphere, we'd freeze. Our atmosphere is a layer of gas that goes around the planet. And one of its main jobs is to take the heat from the sun and bounce it back and forth to keep us warm. Without an atmosphere, the energy from the sun would bounce off the surface and disappear into space, and we freeze. One place that's not quite as lucky to have an atmosphere is the moon. How many moons do we have?
One.
Most of the time, one. But once upon a time, we had 2 moons, as a rock came into orbit and counted as a second moon. You might think this happened years, decades ago. It was about 2 months ago. We had 2 moons for a little bit. The moon is split into 2 halves. You've got the light side of the moon pointing towards the sun, and you've got the dark side of the moon, which is where Pink Floyd usually works. I do that joke for school kids as well. They never laugh. It's hilarious. 12 men have walked on the moon since 1969. Any guesses how many women have walked on the moon? 0 is sadly the correct answer. But that is changing soon. One of NASA's current projects is Project Artemis, which will get the first woman to walk on the moon in the next few years. This is part of a project to create a permanent lunar base. People will be able to live and work on the moon for short periods of time. So it should happen in the next few years. Yeah. You set now? No? Oh. The closest planet to the sun is Mercury, but Mercury is not the hottest, as it does not. I've skipped something. That's what I skipped. I skipped the sun somehow. That's what happened. My brain does not work part of the time. Alright, so we're going to go over to the sun. It might do a pit stop at Venus because I pressed the wrong button, but we'll see what happens. So, the sun is the main star we see every day. Is the sun big? The sun's very big. It is 1,300,000 times larger than Earth. But the sun is actually a dwarf star. There are stars much, much, much bigger. What color is our sun?
Yellow.
Yellow. It is a yellow dwarf star, exactly. But stars can be 6 different colors: yellow, red, orange, blue, white, or brown. Specifically brown dwarf stars. This will depend on their size and also what step of their life they're at. Our sun is on step 1 of a process called fusion, where you take 2 elements, smash them together to make heavier stuff. The sun is on step 1, hydrogen turning into helium, and in about 5 billion years it will go on to the next step, which is turning helium into carbon. To do this, it'll have to get bigger. Not just a tiny bit bigger, we're talking it'll swallow 2, 3, or even 4 planets before it's big enough to start that next step. That will not be good for humanity, considering we are the 3rd closest planet to the sun, so there's a good chance that Earth will get swallowed. And even if it didn't, the sun expanding wouldn't be good. Fortunately though, 5 billion years is not really something we need to worry about too much. Now, you may be curious about these spots covering the sun. These, you'll never guess this, they're called sunspots. Wow. But those are where explosions of energy come from the surface of the sun. These are called solar flares, and it's basically like a lasso whip into space. And sometimes they hit Earth. That sounds really bad, but it causes something really cool. Have you heard of the Northern Lights?
Yeah.
Have you heard of the Southern Lights?
Yeah.
Some have, some haven't. But this happens because that energy from the sun hits Earth and it affects the magnetic field. The magnetic field is strongest at 2 points, the North and South Pole, which is why that's where the lights appear. It's harder to see the southern lights because Antarctica is A, massive, and B, a protected zone, and also really cold. People don't want to go to Antarctica most of the time. But that is what causes the northern lights and the southern lights. Now, back to Mercury. So, Mercury is the smallest planet. If your mind immediately thinks of Pluto, you've got to move on. It's been 19 years since Pluto got demoted to being a dwarf planet back in 2006. Ever since, Mercury's been the smallest, but the hottest is Venus. This is Venus. Now, it's going to look slightly weird. I'm just turning the sun off. Nothing to worry about. Now, Venus is usually about 464 degrees Celsius. It is also incredibly pressurized and constantly raining acid, which is why we haven't sent anything onto the surface of Venus since the 70s, as the thing that landed there last survived for a maximum of 5 minutes, which means that it's a lot of money for 5 minutes worth of information. So they kind of just gave up on Venus. Both Mercury and Venus are too close to the sun to have any moons of their own. Any moons that they would have are stolen by the gravitational pull of the sun. After Mercury and Venus is then Earth, and then one of the most popular planets, Mars. Mars is my favourite planet, not because of anything to do with SpaceX, I can assure you, but because it was my specific research subject back in university, and so now I know way too much about it, and you're stuck with me. So Mars is nicknamed the Red Planet, and you can kind of see why. It's caused by iron oxide or rust on the surface. Right here, we've got Olympus Mons. Do we have any mountain climbers or hikers in today? Because if that is the largest mountain in the solar system. It is 2.5 times taller than Mount Everest. It is roughly the size of Poland and would take about a year to climb to the top. Does that sound difficult enough? Well, in case not, it's also an active volcano. meaning nobody's ever going to climb that. It's too complicated. But hey, not all of Mars is red. There's some white here and even more on the other side. This is not ice like is our poles. It is what's called dry ice, which is frozen carbon dioxide, which turns from being a gas into being a solid when it sublimates around minus 83 degrees Celsius. Mars can get up to a maximum temperature of about 20 degrees on a very good day, but usually much colder. Mars has got 2 moons named Phobos and Deimos, which sound nice until you know their translations, which are fear and dread. Because Mars was the god of war in Roman mythology. All of the planets are named after the Roman gods. But what do you have a lot of in war? Fear and dread. Roman mythology, Jupiter, and the largest planet in the solar system. Jupiter is a gas giant, just like Saturn, which means it's very big and it's made out of gas. As opposed to the ice giants, which are very big and also made out of gas. They're just called ice giants because they're very cold. Oh, what's up? This is the big red spot, or the eye of Jupiter. Anyone know what it is, by any chance? Yeah.
It's a hurricane.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a hurricane or a storm that's about 3 times larger than Earth itself. If you took Earth and put it there, people would be upset about it. But you can fit a total of about 1,300 Earths into Jupiter. Now, Jupiter is very, very big. It makes sense it's got a few moons. So you've gone from 1 moon with Earth, 2 moons with Mars. Any guesses how many moons Jupiter might have? 3? 7? 62? 57? The answer currently is 97. A lot of these come from different mythologies, but 4 of them are specifically famous. They are the 4 Galilean moons, named after who found them, Galileo Galilei. And if that name seems familiar, you might have been listening to Bohemian Rhapsody, as his name does come up in that. But those 4 are Europa. Where's the other 3? Io. There's also Callisto and Ganymede. There's Ganymede. Callisto might not be up right now, it'll come up later. But of these, the one that I'm most curious about at the moment is Europa. You see, Europa is a water moon under a thick layer of ice. Deepest ocean on Earth, the Mariana Trench, is 6 miles deep. Deepest ocean on Europa is 70 miles deep, over 11 times deeper. And everywhere on Earth that we found water, we found life. After Jupiter, we've got Saturn. What's Saturn famous for?
Rings.
Its rings. But it's not the only planet with rings. Jupiter, Uranus, Neptune have wings. Earth used to have wings. They became the moon. But Saturn's are the most obvious. Now, Saturn will have either more or less moons than Jupiter does. Hands up if you think that Saturn will have more moons than Jupiter does. More than 97 moons.
More.
More? Hands up if you think it'll have less moons than Jupiter does. Okay. Anyone who did not put your hand up, I assume you believe they have the exact same amount of moons. I respect it. But Saturn's current moon count is 257, which is just showing off. A lot of these come from Greek, Norse and Roman mythology, such as Pandora of Pandora's box. You've got Pan, the Greek god of nature. You've got, where's Janus? Janus, my favourite Roman god, the Roman god of doorways. Just in case you needed that. But my favourite 2 are definitely Hatti and Skull, who is currently probably around here somewhere. Because Hattie and Skull come from Norse mythology, and I love Norse mythology, they are the two wolves that would chase the sun and moon around the sky in Norse mythology, making sure that they don't stop moving in the sky. Which is exactly why Hattie is on one side of Saturn and Skull is on the complete opposite side. Because in Norse mythology they believed if the wolves ever caught the sun and moon, they would combine and they would cause Ragnarok, which is why they stay on opposite sides. You might notice this is a weird name of a moon, S2004S7. Well, that S isn't important, it's just series. 2004, the year that they were found, S7, which means this was the seventh moon found in 2004 for Saturn. For example, when it was on Jupiter, instead of S being here, it was J because it was Jupiter. So you can see this was the 32nd moon found in 2004 for Saturn, the 35th. In 2007, that was the 3rd. This is the 20th in 2004. You might notice these are quite older moon names. So 2004, that is 21 years ago. This is not because we haven't found any moons since. It is mostly because getting the moons onto the system can be incredibly difficult and take a long time. So we're still waiting for some people to add them, including the about 60 that they found about a month ago now, which makes my life way more difficult because I have to constantly check how many moons each planet has. But hey, all part of the job. Now, there are, after that, Uranus and Neptune, and yes, it is said Uranus and not the other way. But I'm going to go a bit further away. You see, that was our solar system. A solar system just means a star with planets. Some solar systems can have 2, 3, or even more stars in them, but in our galaxy, the Milky Way, it has an estimated 100 billion stars in it. That's 100 followed by 9 zeros. That's already a lot of potential planets. Well, surely we're not the only galaxy. There's got to be, what, 2, 3 galaxies? No, the current number is 2 trillion galaxies. Every dot you see is not a star, it's a galaxy of its own with hundreds of billions of stars. The numbers start to get weird, like things like 1 septillion planets, which is 1 followed by like 27 zeros. The numbers get insane. The nearest galaxy to us is named Andromeda. And in a few billion years, Andromeda is going to crash into the Milky Way. Now, people have already named what this new galaxy will be called. It will either be called Andromeda Way, which is the one I like, because the other option is Milky Andromeda, and I just don't like Milky Andromeda. To hold a galaxy together, you need something with a very strong gravitational pull. We see right at the center a bright light. We're going to zoom in on that bright light, so be warned, it's going to get bright in here. Now, stars have a very strong gravitational pull because they weigh a lot. But at the center of a galaxy, we have an object called Sagittarius A star, which is a supermassive black hole. Black holes happen when you take massive old stars. They're much bigger, much older than the sun. They've already gone through multiple stages of life and now they're out of fuel. They're going to start to collapse, getting smaller, hotter, smaller, smaller, until they get so small they fall inside out, becoming a black hole. Black holes are made from 2 main sections. You've got this bit here, the event horizon, the point at which the light, the fastest thing in existence, is not fast enough to escape. Right at the center is the singularity, a point in space of almost infinite density. Imagine you go to the beach and you pick up 1 grain of sand, just the tiniest piece of sand, except that piece of sand weighs more than the sun itself. And That's small compared to what the singularity will be. The singularity will weigh hundreds, if not thousands of times more, while being even smaller than a grain of sand. This is why black holes kind of break physics a bit, because they bend space and time itself. If you get too close to a black hole, you will start to do time travel, whether you want to or not. If you fall into a black hole, you will get spaghettified. Spaghettification is what happens to anything that falls in a black hole. Now, I have an animation of a black hole getting created. I will warn you, there's a bright light as part of this animation. I'll give you a few seconds warning before the bright light so you can look away. And if you choose not to look away, that's on you, I'm afraid. What we start with is a star. This is a red supergiant. It is much bigger, much older than the sun. It's already gone through multiple stages of life, but now it's out of fuel. It's going to collapse, getting smaller, hotter, denser. Bright light coming now. And then it both implodes and explodes at the same time. The implosion becomes a black hole. Not a supermassive black hole, but a black hole all the same. The explosion is a wave of energy called a supernova that will spread into the universe for a long time. The next star that is going to go supernova is named Betelgeuse. And when it does explode, it will be so bright, it will be like having a full moon in the sky for a few days before it then settles down. Sadly, this is likely to happen sometime in the next 100,000 years, so it's unlikely that we'll see it. That is everything I have pre-prepared for you. I am here for the next like half an hour-ish with nothing else to do if I just hide in here. So if you do have any questions or anything else you'd like to see, there are literally hundreds of buttons on here. If you want to see other things, I can show you, or I can answer questions about anything mostly. I get questions about quantum mechanics and about moons. I'm happy to answer any of them. But I'm just going to open the door so anyone who does want to go can go. But I hope you've learned something, I hope you've enjoyed, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your time at Techniquest. Thank you very much.
Thank you.